Hello, my name is Michael Waymeyer, and I'm at the University of Kansas, and I'd like to talk just very briefly with you about the important role of becoming self-determined in building a bridge to your future. Um, you will probably have at least heard of transition and transition planning. The Texas Transition Student-Centered Transitions Network is focused on pulling together resources and information that enable young people to make the transition to adulthood in ways that enable them to live the kind of life that they'd like to. Transition skills are simply the things you need to know to get from one point in your life to another. The point of being in high school and then moving out to becoming a young adult. We often talk about transition as a bridge to the future, as a bridge from school to adulthood. So all of these skills and knowledge are skills and knowledge that benefit you because they enable you to achieve the life that you would like. And transition planning simply is you and others around you making decisions about what you need to learn to be successful as an adult. So basically, through transition planning, you build that bridge to a better future. And one really important part of building that bridge to your future is for you to become self-determined. Again, you may have heard about self-determination, but basically being self-determined just means that you make or cause things to happen in your own life. It doesn't mean that you do everything for yourself or do it yourself. Sometimes it means doing things more on your own. Other times it means finding somebody who has the skills or knowledge or abilities that enable you to get where you want to go. But it's about making or causing things to happen in your life rather than somebody else or something else making things happen in your life. And we know from research and we know from the experiences of many, many students with and without disabilities that young people who are more self-determined when they leave school achieve more positive community and work-related outcomes, more positive quality of life reporting, that being self-determined will contribute to building a better life, a life of quality, a life that's based upon what you're good at, what you want to be doing, and where you want to go. So let's talk just very quickly about what you can do to become more self-determined, because you have teachers around you, you have family members around you. All of them have a role in this, but ultimately it comes to you. Are you willing to do what you need to do to become more self-determined? And if so, here are some of the ideas that you could take and focus on as you build the bridge to your future. So first of all, one of the things you can do to become more self-determined is to get involved in your transition planning. There's a lot of reasons to do that. The transition planning process is to create plans for your future, not somebody else's future, your future. So you really need to be involved in this. This is people making decisions about what you're going to do for the rest of your life sometimes. And you should be at the center of that process. And you do that by becoming engaged in your transition planning. So to begin with, learn what the transition planning process involves. There are meetings, what happens at these meetings, goals are set, who's involved. There are a lot of things, and I'll give you some resources toward the end of this that can help you figure that out. But obviously, you have supports at school and at home that can assist with. So we know from research, again, that you being involved in your transition planning or students being involved with transition planning promotes greater self-determination, and that students who are more self-determined want to be involved in planning for their future. Work with your teachers and family members to find ways that you can take more responsibility over the planning process. By and large, these folks are your supports. They're your best allies to help you achieve the kinds of things that you would like. And often they're waiting for you to indicate that this is something that's important to you. Learn about what you're good at. What are your strengths? What is it that you love? What are you passionate about? What are you good at? And then think about that in terms of what you might do in the future, what kinds of goals you might set, and also think about what areas do you need some additional supports or learning in order to be successful. All of us have a mix of things we're good at and things that we need to know how to do more effectively. So, and then think about where you might want to go and what you might want to do when you leave school, based upon this information about your strengths, about what it is you like to do, your preferences, your interest in the federal law governing the delivery of special education services requires that transition planning be based on take into account student needs, but be based upon student interests and preferences. So that's an important role in this. Get involved in decisions that impact your life. Big decisions, small decisions. And that doesn't mean you have to make every decision independently. A lot of us, most people, in fact, everyone gets some help in making decisions from people who know more about what it is you're trying to decide about, people who can give you ideas and opinions. But at the core is that you're actively involved, in fact, in the middle of these decisions that impact your life. Part of the decision-making process involves solving problems about what it is you want to select or make a decision about. So learn about problem-solving skills and how to solve problems and practice problem solving. And of course, I'll probably say it again, but your transition planning process is a process that's focused around problem solving, decision making, goal setting, all those things to create a plan for your future. Work with your allies, with your teachers and your family to identify areas in your life where you can become involved in the decision-making process. And also think about who can support you to make decisions and what kinds of supports you need to make the best kinds of decisions. Goal setting is an important part of being self-determined. So get involved in setting goals in your life. Goals help us provide a plan, basically, for building the bridge that we want to build. Goals motivate us. We set goals because they motivate us to work toward those goals. We create action plans based upon the goals that we set, and then we can track our progress toward those goals. So learn about these steps in goal setting and goal attainment. How do you achieve goals? How do you set goals? Most people have goals. They often don't really talk about them a lot. Maybe they're not as detailed as they could be. Think about the goals that are important for success in school now, but also as you head into the future, as you begin to think about what you want to do after you graduate. What are some of the goals that will help you to achieve those kinds of outcomes? And so that you may set some short-term goals around things you need to learn at school, but also you will probably be setting longer-term goals that are related to where you want to end up. Think about and learn about how to advocate for yourself. As an adult in our society, you have to speak up for yourself. And as a person who experiences disability, that becomes even more important. Other people will do things to you and for you, or make assumptions about you, and you have got to be in the front line saying what you are able to do, what you're good at, and to advocate for yourself and for causes that are important to you and other people. So self-advocacy skills are skills like speaking up for yourself, being assertive, negotiating, compromising, ways to get what you want and to create meaningful change. You need to know about your rights and responsibilities associated with those rights. There are legal protections that enable you to avoid discrimination in the workplace, in the community, but unless you speak up for yourself, then often those kinds of discriminatory actions don't go, or they go unnoticed or unpunished, if you will. And there are lots of people with whom you can become engaged and who care about the issues that you care about, whether that's an issue around something in terms of community inclusion or other things. So find other people who have shared experiences, who care about the issues that you care about, and join with them to advocate on your own behalf, but also on the behalf of others who experience similar discrimination or lack of opportunity. Learn leadership and team building skills all through life. The things you're going to need to know to be effective and to live the life that you want to need will always involve communicating with other people, working with other people, working in teams. And the more that you can show yourself to be an effective leader and to be a good team player, then the further you can go probably to achieving your own personal goals. So learn how to work with others to achieve your goals and their goals. Because sometimes you can't get what you want until others also get what they want. There are lots of leadership skills that are available that you can learn and practice before and particularly at your transition planning meeting. Again, there are lots of models out there that show how you can be in a leading role in your own transition planning. And if you haven't thought about that, I urge you to consider that. Find those clubs, organizations, and groups that not only self-advocacy related, but just about your passions and your interest, and take leadership roles. And you learn leadership through doing those kinds of things. And throughout life, you'll see that people who are willing to take leadership roles are often surrounded by people who support them, and that it's a good way of achieving your goals and your passions. There are a number of resources intended to support you to become more self-determined. If you go online, the I'm Determined project of the Virginia Department of Education is an excellent source for information about how you can become more self-determined. An example of a disability-specific group, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, ASAN, has great resources about being a self-determined young person. And then the Texas Transition Student Centered Transitions Network website has lots of information about and supports for becoming self-determined. We've learned through the years that enabling young people to become self-determined enables them to make things to happen in their own lives that are based upon what they want, what they're good at, what they care about. If you don't do things like that, you run the risk of somebody else making those decisions for you, making those plans for you, and they may not be what you want to do. I know that your teachers and your family are your allies, and that they will rally around you to support you to become more self-determined as you take greater responsibility for that. So with that, I will say best of luck in building a bridge to your future that is based upon what you like, what you're good at, and what you're interested in doing.